forgive me, for I know not what I do. Anyway, hi. It's me, Dan. And today, we're going to do something a little bit different. A lot of people have been asking me, in fact, they ask me all the time, how do I remember everything I play? And I really don't have that kind of memory at all. So I play by ear. I make it up as I go. How do you do that? Well, my method is a little bit different. And just so you know, I am going to be doing a series on playing by ear. And if you've ever wanted to play by ear or improvise on the piano, that will be for you. But my method is different from others. There are those who teach playing by ear, and you've got to relate. You learn the chords, and then you start learning the block chords. And yeah, you have to know chords. You have to use your ear most of all. My method is quite different, and I'll tell you why. What I do, first of all, I listen to a lot of music. And if you don't listen to any music and you sit down at a keyboard and you try to play, you've got to be able to relate to something. We all relate to things we see and hear. It's no different with music and with playing the piano. I know what the keys, what they sound like. You've got to get familiar, and singing the notes, whether you have a good ear and a good voice or not. Ba da 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 da. So the da da is. So those are things, those are the basics. But once you get going and you start playing the piano, as I have for so many years, you can play and think pianistically. In other words, you can think of a piece of music you want to play, and you can think about it like this. How would this sound on the piano? I don't do it that way. That's what draws me quite a bit apart from other pianists. My method is, what instruments would be playing which notes had this particular piece of music been fully orchestrated? When you hear a symphony orchestra, or you hear a popular piece or a record of any kind of recording where instruments are playing, or even synthesizers and virtual instruments, it doesn't matter. There are certain characteristics that are related to each instrument and each virtual instrument that's meant to sound like that instrument. So I orchestrate when I play the piano. I don't think about how this is going to sound on the keyboard. I think about how I can make this keyboard in my head sound like an orchestra. So let's take, for example, that chord. See, for those who don't know, you play notes together. Notes in sum equal a chord. So that's a chord. Note 2, note 3. This is a basic C major chord, also referred to as a triad. The root, or the first note of the scale, is designated as what we call the root, or the tonic. Then you go to count 1, 2, 3. That's the third, the fifth. So it's the root, third, and fifth of a chord. There are many different, that's a C major chord. I can play it as a minor seventh to add some character. I can do it as a major seventh. Add the ninth. There are so many different ways that I can play that to give it different feelings, and I associate the feeling with what I decide to play. If I want it to be mysterious, I might do that. If I want it to be very straightforward, I might do that. If I want it to be going into the next, if I want it to lead to a different chord, I because you expect to then hear that. If you want to add some tension, so many different ways of doing it. But up here, I play the melody. I always play the melody with my right hand. But what I like to do is add the orchestration. The left hand, depending on what the orchestrator would choose, would be the bass, or it would be bass, string bass. There might be strings playing a line in here. Let's take Stevie Wonder's Overjoyed, for example. Okay, we have so I'm hearing strings somewhere in the middle. I'm hearing keyboards here, and I'm hearing bass, and I'm hearing rhythm. So I'm going to play Stevie Wonder's Overjoyed, and just kind of think in your mind how I might be listening to this. And I have to also remember in my brain what the original recording sounded like, and I have to try to replicate that as much as possible. Okay. And the rhythm, I'm hearing drums. Dunka-chunk. New words in English. Dunka-chunk. How do you like it? Dunka-chunk, dunka-chunk. The language of music. Beautiful, isn't it? Okay, so here's another one that I can illustrate with kind of a romantic, almost a bossa nova feeling. Got to get my mind into that. This is a song called So Many Stars. Marilyn Allen Bergman wrote it. You probably heard it. It was originally done by Sergio Mendes at Brazil 66. The melody... well, that could be very repetitive. And if I did it like this... that's boring, very boring. However, so I try to, each one I'm going to make different. And then I'm going to play a jazz chord, which is going to be a diminished chord over this. So over the bass. So. Now that gives you kind of a mysterious, romantic feeling. Then I think of the boom chucks. Boom chuck, boom chuck, boom. rhythm going. strings around it. So there are a couple of examples. Of course, we're not getting into a whole lot of detail about what I'm playing. Song by Neal Hefti called Girl Talk. Count Basie made it a hit for the Count Basie Orchestra. This is a classic example of turning the piano into a big band. There is a song, the song Girl Talk. You've probably heard it before. I'm going to play it in the key of D. It goes like this. So I'm going to make that, because there's no vocal on it, that's going to be a trumpet. This is going to be a trumpet. That's going to be a trumpet. The three trumpets are going to play together. If they were trumpets, you'd hear the sound of those. So in the middle of that, I'm going to put some French horns. French horns are mellow and smooth and silky. And how about adding trombones and bass trombone and strings on top, and you end up with a rhythm section. Now, if I were going to make this sound like the piano, I might go. But I'm going to make it sound like a band. And with all the nuances that come with it, like expression, swelling up. Saxes in here in the middle, blending with the trumpets. Do that. And then, of course, the song that you can't do wrong with anytime I'm playing for anybody. They always want to hear New York, New York. And brass, you know. Trumpets, trumpets and trombones playing the same chord. So you got the trumpets, the trombones playing the same notes. got strings doing it too, in unison. And what you end up with. Piano. That's piano. Timpani. And there you have it. How to play the piano by ear. So, that's it for today. I'm just going to play what I feel like playing. Sign up for my subscribe to my YouTube channel. Would love that. And listen in June for my new smooth jazz single called Echoes in the Dark. Written music by me and lyrics by the great Susan Shabeta, and introducing a wonderful new singer globally. Her name is Samantha May. Listen for her. She's going to be one of the biggest stars in America, I predict. She will be accepting a Grammy in the next 5 years. You watch. So, thank you all for tuning in today. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye.